morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. It's been a couple of weeks since we've seen you. Been busy doing other stuff, but we are here to talk everything NFL today. All NFL free agency and off-season topic. So it's really just going to be a bunch of banter back and forth. We hope that you guys will leave some comments, like, share, subscribe as we go along. Before we get started with any of that, though, I want to give a shout out to my North Carolina Tar Heels for sweeping the Duke Blue Devils. Junior, don't forget you owe me $20. I expect it soon. And we are on our way to wrapping up the ACC tournament tonight. I believe we are going to win that and then go on and make the Final Four, potentially win the entire thing. So that's a different podcast for a different day. So I just wanted to give that shout out. Now we are going to jump into our only topic of this podcast, which is NFL free agency and NFL offseason. So we're going to try out a couple different things too. Yay! All right, so as you can see here, there are a lot of folks that have moved around. They're in their old uniforms right now, but a lot of folks have moved around. Some folks have stayed in the same places. I'm going to open it up to you and ask, first of all, what do you think the biggest off-season move so far has been? The most impactful?
Ooh, this is a tough question because there's been a lot of change. I would say this is probably the wildest free agency I've seen in the last few years. Impactful, I would have to say it's a move that wasn't made. Like, it was a guy that didn't change teams. I think that's Chris Jones staying long term with the Kansas City Chiefs. Extremely if that defense loses Chris Jones, their defense is toast almost. I mean, they got a good D, but that dude is the anchor of their defense. I think them locking him up. Also, Patrick Mahomes freeing up all that cap space, restructuring his deal. So the Chiefs made some championship moves.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I think the biggest move so far has been a guy that didn't change teams, and it was Chris Jones staying with Kansas City. We, as 49ers fans, watched up close and personal as he basically single-handedly wrecked two potentially game-sealing drives in the Super Bowl. So we know how important he is. Obviously, the Chiefs found out how important he was last year at the beginning of the season when he held out. And then as the season went along, he just continued to get better as he got into football shape. And so it paid off for him. He got his long-term deal. Good for him. Good for the Chiefs. Unfortunately for us and the rest of the league, we still have to deal with them.
Yeah.
I think another sneaky move that the Chiefs made is signing Hollywood Brown. They got a guy now that can really take the top off the defense. So not quite Tyreek Hill, but he's definitely a burner. He's going to be able to get open and make some plays probably in the open field on some busted plays. So they'll be able to have a little mix of what they've been doing the last couple of years and what they were doing with Tyreek Hill previously.
Yeah,
I think.
I think so too. One other impactful, I mean, this is definitely impactful because the Falcons go and get Kirk Cousins, who is not a bad quarterback. He's an above-average quarterback.
Absolutely.
And now they have an opportunity to really unlock the potential that they thought they were going to be getting out of these three massive first-round talents in Drake London first. Yep. Well, Kyle Pitts first. Then Drake London.
Yep.
Then Bijan Robinson.
Yeah.
They also got a Tyler Algier in there who rushed for over 1,000 yards in his rookie season.
Absolutely.
And almost double-digit touchdowns. They have a solid squad. And I think that was an extremely impactful free agency move that people are probably underestimating a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I think that I would agree with you again on that one. I think it's interesting. Seen a couple of commentary, some quotes here and there. It's interesting that Atlanta was willing to pay Kirk Cousins $180 million, but they weren't willing to pay Lamar Jackson $200 million. The difference is Lamar Jackson wanted it, all of it guaranteed, and obviously Kirk Cousins hasn't requested that yet. I will say this as well. Kirk Cousins, kudos to you, dude. You are like the best negotiator in the history of the NFL. This dude has made so
A
much
lot of guaranteed
money.
money.
Tons of guaranteed money. Really set himself up well for whatever he and his family want to do after he's done playing football. So, kudos to you, man. You've earned it. You deserve it.
Yeah, the play on the field is really what earns it.
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line.
He bet on himself.
Yeah, he bet on himself.
And he won.
He keeps performing, and he keeps winning.
All right, so obviously those are a couple of huge, impactful moves. I think that we talked about it. I made a comment a couple weeks ago that if Justin Fields went to Atlanta, Atlanta would be a contender for the number 1 seed. That was probably hyperbole, but I honestly believe that Kirk Cousins does make Atlanta a potential contender for the number 1 seed. Not sure if they're quite a Super Bowl contender yet, but I do think because of the division that they're in, it's still going to be probably the worst division in the NFC. They have a good chance to have a really good record and vie for that number 1 seed in that bye, which would be huge for a young team like that. So to be able to play at home. All right. Anything else on that?
Not necessarily on impact.
All right. Well, let's talk about some other guys that moved around. Any surprising moves that you didn't see coming? I know you mentioned one earlier today that you kind of didn't even notice until this morning.
It was a busy week, so
yes, it was.
Last night's move, or yesterday's move, I should say, caught me off guard this morning because yesterday I was so wrapped up. But there were some other moves. Yeah. I just want to say these pros ain't loyal. You got Saquon going to a division rival. You got freaking, oh my gosh, there was another Aaron Jones going to a division rival. Well, I think it's funny.
They let him go. That was
true.
I mean, I would have done the same thing. You sign a younger guy after. Now listen, don't get me wrong.
I just think it's funny.
I think the Pack. I agree with you.
It's like Richard Sherman going to the 49ers. You know.
So what's hilarious, and Tori Ziska, if you catch this, you'll know because you're the one that kind of let me in on it. Is it seems like all of these Packers legends, when they get ready, when they get done, when the Packers let them go or whatever, they end up in Minnesota.
That's so
Brett Favre went to Minnesota. A lot of dudes end up in Minnesota after they get done with Green Bay. Something about that. So awesome.
But just running backs in general, how much change there was there, and quarterback. I mean, so many quarterbacks switched teams too.
They did.
One that
didn't. That's going to be a big move for a team in the NFC South. As a matter of fact, Baker Mayfield staying in Tampa Bay. I think he had a great season. He's a good fit with them. They still have Mike Evans, still got Chris Godwin. So I think they'll still be a contender for their division. I'm going to go with Atlanta now that they have Kirk Cousins as their quarterback, though.
Quarterback does make that big of a difference.
Absolutely.
So, let's see. Josh Jacobs going to Green Bay and replacing Aaron Rodgers. I'm going to be honest. I don't know how much of an upgrade that is, except for age-wise.
Yeah, well, I would say I don't know. I would disagree. I would say that at this point, because of the age, right?
One of them's still in their prime.
Yes,
one's
Josh
kind
Jacobs.
of on the
Josh
down.
Jacobs is, I would say, still in his prime. Aaron Jones, he's still good. Obviously,
really
he came on at the end of last season. He was running really strong.
He's also very fresh.
He gave the 49ers fits in the playoff game, so we saw it firsthand.
Yep.
But I think he's obviously, as you mentioned, he's on the downside, closer to the end than the beginning. Where I think Josh Jacobs, as you mentioned, is still in the prime, maybe the tail end of his prime, but he's still in his prime, I would say.
Yeah. I do think that the Steelers committing to Russell Wilson as their starter by trading away Pickett, that's a
huge move.
I think it was really intelligent. Make sure the locker room understands this is your leader. And, he's the leader of the team. He's going to run the offense, and he doesn't have to look over his shoulder or anything like that. Very smart, I think.
Yeah, I think that was a big move by them. Big confidence boost to Russell Wilson as well, which is, it's not that he needs it. He's got a big enough ego, but it was definitely not something that he got in Denver at all. He didn't really get that vote of confidence. Not from Sean Payton anyways. We'll put it that way.
I have a question for you. What's your take on the Calvin Ridley signing? I know you have some opinions about this.
Yeah, so I think that obviously Calvin Ridley, kudos to him. He had a solid season last year after missing the entire season before that. I think that he really, for teams that want their receivers to get re-signed like we do, for like the 49ers do, I think Calvin Ridley fucked up the market. He screwed up the market, is what he did. But kudos to him. He got paid. I think that 4 years, $92 million for a wide receiver that's about to turn 30 years old is probably a bit much. And I just think it means that guys like Brandon Ayuk that are coming up and other young receivers that are coming up to get paid, they're going to command 30 plus, which is really, it's going to be interesting to see what teams value more. Are they going to value that veteran quarterback on that high salary, or are we going to see a flux of wide receivers start to get paid huge contracts, and all of these teams start to rely on rookie quarterback contracts?
Yeah. Outside of Calvin Ridley this year, let's see, Gabe Davis went to Jacksonville, right? I thought that was actually a really big move because I felt like Trevor Lawrence this season really tried to force the ball downfield a lot to Calvin Ridley, and their timing was off a lot. I actually have a league mate who stacked them up. Blumpkins, I'm just calling you out. It's called spade a spade. I thought it was a good pickup for you, but we both know that they missed on a ton of connections, a ton of potential touchdowns even. And I think Gabe Davis, I think they brought him in because maybe they feel like he will have a better opportunity to have some better chemistry. And the writing was just on the wall at that point for Calvin Ridley. I think, he knew that his time was going to be limited. Jacksonville wasn't going to pay him what he wanted. So
exactly.
On the other side there, get Gabe Davis in fantasy. I'm just saying.
Yep. A couple of other moves that Atlanta made, under the radar moves. They traded for Rondale Moore. They traded Desmond Ridder to the Cardinals for Rondale Moore, another young receiver who is solid. Not a superstar, but he made some big plays for Arizona. It'll be interesting to see how Atlanta uses them. Also, Darnell Mooney. So their wide receiver room and their offensive skill positions are pretty stacked. They've got some quality guys. Let's see here, a couple of guys that AFC, other than Kansas City Chiefs, AFC. There's two teams that you better watch out for, and that's the Baltimore Ravens. You guys can see right down here, this big guy, number 22, Derrick Henry, is going to be in that Baltimore backfield. We'll touch on that. But I also want to say the Houston Texans are for real. They are not last year was not a fluke.
They're coming.
They are coming, and they are it's going to be Kansas City, Baltimore, and Houston for quite a while in that AFC battling it out. If Joe Burrow could somehow stay healthy and Cincinnati can protect him, hence improve your offensive line, they'll be in the mix as well, but that's still a big if. But I think those three that I mentioned prior are going to be battling it out for quite a while. Houston and Baltimore got quite a bit better in this offseason so far. What do you think?
Oh, Houston got better. Baltimore got better. Teams like Buffalo got a little worse, I think.
Yeah.
Chargers, still yet to be seen.
Story is
that story is like still being written, so we'll see. They do have a lot of talent. You bring in Harbaugh. You traded away your best receiver. So who knows?
Two best receivers are gone. Well, two of the three. Mike Williams is gone too.
That's true, huh? Yeah.
So
wow.
Yeah, Harbaugh's kind of clearing out the cupboard, which is what he does. He did it in San Francisco. He found out who he wanted to keep and who he didn't. Whoever he didn't, he got rid of, and he was very successful until it all fell apart. I blame more of that on Trent Baalke than I do Jim Harbaugh, but that's that's an old story
all
that
past
we'll just
that.
sweep under the
Yeah.
rug because it is what it is. But Jim Harbaugh has proven that he's a winner everywhere he goes.
Everywhere.
It may take him a while, and he really has one thing left to accomplish as a coach, and that's to win the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So watch out because he's a very determined person, very stubborn. So be very interesting to see as he and his brother play each other more often now. Though.
Mark it down right now. 2027, 49ers versus Chargers in the Super Bowl, and the 49ers smack them.
That'd be nice because we need to win one. And the last time we played the Chargers in the Super Bowl, we smacked them. It was rough. So,
here,
let's see here. Who you got? All right, so let's go ahead and recap the Dallas Cowboys offensive or off season so far. Nah, yeah, exactly. Jerry.
What are you doing?
Thought you were all in, bro. They haven't made any moves, have they?
They designated a few players as post June 1 cuts. Gallup, and I forget.
Yeah. Jerry Jones. I don't know what. I mean, I know Stephen Jones said the other day, all in for you guys means keeping your core guys. That you have Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Micah Parsons, things like that. But I'm asking, obviously that's not enough. So you're really just all in on not being good enough again, or what? What do you guys? Not that I want you to win.
Who's that running back now?
I don't know.
Pollard went to Tennessee.
Left, yeah, I don't even know.
I thought Henry might go there. I can't remember.
Yeah.
I thought that might have been one move they made, but I can't think about it.
Yeah, I can't think of any moves that the Cowboys have made. So I want to touch on, we mentioned earlier the Pittsburgh Steelers signing Russell Wilson and obviously trading Kenny Pickett away, right? Where do you think that puts Pittsburgh as far as in their division and in the AFC? Do you feel like it makes them a contender? If we get, let's say this, let me ask you this. If we get the Russ that we saw in Seattle, the last Russell Wilson we saw in Seattle, last healthy Russell Wilson, right? Maybe not that MVP type Russell Wilson, but pretty close. If we get that guy in Pittsburgh with the weapons they have, what does that make them?
Well, they lost one of their key weapons in Deontay Johnson. He went to Carolina.
He did.
They made some moves. But with that said, I do believe that Pickens can pick up the slack there. They have some weapons still.
Yeah.
Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, Freiermuth. I mean, they have some weapons. And to be honest, I think if Russell Wilson can be the Russell Wilson he was last year, even
last year
because he played well.
Great season.
He would basically double the offensive production that Kenny Pickett gave them, and they had a winning season.
Yep.
So I wouldn't say they're championship contenders by any means because there's some teams that are head and shoulders above them in Kansas City and Baltimore.
Yeah.
So even Baltimore being in their division, I think I can answer both of your questions by saying I think Russell Wilson makes them better, but not contenders.
Okay.
Yeah, not contenders.
I like it. I'm going to say that if Lamar doesn't have a phenomenal season, I think they can't contend for the division. I don't know if they'll be a Super Bowl contender. I think that obviously you got to go through Kansas City, and right now they've proven that nobody can beat them when it matters the most in the last two seasons. So I think that they maybe could contend for the division depending on Baltimore's health situation. I'll say that.
Baltimore answered a lot of their health questions at quarterback last year, and Lamar won MVP. So
he shouldn't have.
I mean, last year we had the if, right? I think it was fair for all of us, podcasters and everyone to be like, if Lamar can stay healthy. Well, guess what? He stayed healthy last year. He was MVP. He freaking lit it up. I mean, he won his second MVP. So I'm just saying, like, Pittsburgh. I'm not going to go with the if. I think Pittsburgh doesn't have a chance to contend in either division or the AFC.
Here's what I got to say about Lamar winning the MVP. He didn't deserve it. Christian McCaffrey did. Anyways, and that's not the 49er in me speaking. That's the football fan that watched football all season long speaking, saying Christian McCaffrey was the fucking MVP.
Yeah,
So, that's my
I'm
opinion.
a Niners fan. I get how we all feel that way. You know, he did have a
Since they all give it
spectacular
to
season.
quarterbacks.
It is a quarterback award. You know, I think the argument with Christian McCaffrey, or the argument for McCaffrey winning, is, you know, his all-around performance, right? Like his versatility. You know, he played receiver and running back. I mean, hell, he even threw a touchdown pass. But guess what? Lamar really is not just a quarterback. He led his team in rushing yards. He's, you know, phenomenal quarterback. So he's got that same type of versatility. I think because it is a quarterback award, that's why he got the nod. But if we're just comparing apples and apples, like, they both have very similar characteristics in the sense that they play different positions.
They do. I'll say this though: Christian McCaffrey is a better running back than Lamar Jackson is a quarterback, and Christian McCaffrey is a better receiver than Lamar Jackson is a running back. And that's a close race. It's a very close race.
Yeah, it's going to be really close.
But I'm taking Christian McCaffrey as the MVP.
I'm going to take my guy too. I'll take my guy too.
All right, anyway,
but I'm not hating on Lamar.
No, Lamar had a great season. I won't disagree with that. I just think that CMC should have got the MVP. Anyways, let's talk about free agency some more. All right, who else we got on the screen here? We got Saquon going to Philly. Hey, listen, the teams aren't loyal either. So
I know.
I know. I think it's funny though. I agree with you. The backlash in New York, it was hilarious. Tiki Barber saying that Saquon was dead to him, and then Saquon coming back saying, "You've been a hater since I got there." That was great. So, you know, a lot of banter always comes out when these players switch teams, which is always fun. It's always interesting. Are there any moves that haven't been made yet that you are anticipating or looking for? Before we do that, there's one move in the offseason that everyone was expecting to happen, that hasn't happened and quite possibly may not happen. So before we ask, other than this move we're about to talk about,
I know where you're going with this.
So Justin Fields, right, hasn't been moved. The market for him obviously was like none. And here, I'm going to give my take, and then I want to know what you think about this. So a lot of folks are saying, a lot of experts, things like that, are saying that, well, that tells you a lot about Justin Fields. That tells you a lot about what GMs think about Justin Fields. I'm going to say this. I think that it's the opposite. I think that tells you a lot about what people think about the Chicago Bears front office. And they understand that the position they're in, and they know that at some point you got to get rid of them. So they're not going to rush in and give them everything they want or what they're asking for. It's an indictment more on the Chicago Bears front office for how they've handled Justin Fields, more than Justin Fields and his talent and what he's shown on the field, in my opinion.
I can definitely agree with that. And I'm going to take it a step further and go, maybe Chicago actually wants to create a quarterback competition.
Maybe.
They still do have a year on. They don't have to make a decision on Fields' contract this year, right? So go draft Caleb Williams, let Justin Fields stay on the roster, go through the entire training camp, preseason, let him duke it out. I think a lot of people, including myself, have always said if you give Justin Fields some weapons, now he has another weapon. Yeah. You saw what he did with the addition of DJ Moore. Now you bring in an all-pro, a six-time all-pro wide receiver in Keenan Allen. Yep. I don't know, maybe he could just be that quarterback that everyone – he did not have a lot of talent. I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like if you take Patrick Mahomes as a rookie and you insert him in the same situation that Justin Fields was in as a rookie, he does not have the career trajectory that he has right
Andy
now.
Reid had a lot to do with
exactly.
that.
And people don't take that type of stuff into consideration. It's like with Brock Purdy. Oh, perfect situation, this and this. listen, you almost have to have
In
a
the
perfect
NFL, that's the way.
situation in
As
the
a
NFL
quarterback,
because
absolutely.
they're all pros. Every person
Everybody
in the
can
NFL
play.
is a professional player. They're the best at what they do. That's why they're in the league.
Absolutely.
So I think I agree with you, and I'm going to take it a step further. Field stays on the roster unless something drastic happens across the league, a quarterback gets injured or something. But they have a quarterback competition. They give Fields an opportunity to earn and keep his starting job regardless. I mean, it's tough to do that if you draft a quarterback number one, but the better players should be on the field, and that's what I think about that.
Yeah. I mean, I agree as far
or
as...
you trade that number one because you got Keenan Allen too.
Very possible. I mean, depending on what you get offered for it, right? But yeah, I think that, going back to being in the right situation, I think we've talked about it before. Had the 49ers drafted Justin Fields instead of Trey Lance,
exactly,
he would be on a completely different trajectory right now, a completely different echelon as far as how he's viewed and things like that.
So.
Like, coaching makes a huge difference. Kyle Shanahan would have found all the ways to unlock that guy's talent.
I believe so.
It's just unfortunate. Trey Lance didn't have the experience, so he wasn't ready. Justin Fields was ready. When he got drafted, he was ready to step on an NFL football field and compete with the guys in the NFL. He just didn't have the support system behind him to be successful in Chicago. So, again, I think it's more of an indictment on the Chicago front office and what they put around Justin Fields and try to support him with than anything. And we'll see what happens. We'll see where he ends up. I would, not be surprised if, like you said, he stays in Chicago. I think that would be smart at this point because you're not going to get anything for him, really. Everybody's just going to wait him out. Nobody's going to call Ryan Poles and be like, hey, we got this huge offer for Justin Fields. Nah, nobody's going to do that because they know nobody else is doing that. So they're just going to wait until you guys start calling and saying, hey, we'll take this for Justin Fields, or somebody gets hurt. So,
yeah. And think about this, right? Just imagine this scenario. So now they have Keenan Allen, they have DJ Moore, they have DeAndre Swift, whom they picked up in free agency. That's another running back that traded teams. Maybe you trade back 2 or 3 positions. You pick up Marvin Harrison Jr. to pair with Justin Fields. I'm just saying that sounds like a lethal combination,
Yeah, because I guarantee you're going to find somebody that wants to jump up to get Caleb Williams.
And there's no guarantee that Caleb Williams is what everyone says he is.
More likely that he's not.
Exactly.
And it's not because of what school he goes to, even though everybody knows that I don't like USC quarterbacks. It's not because of what school he goes to. It's just the reality of it. More number one pick quarterbacks don't pan out than the ones that do, right? Trevor Lawrence is the last one. And, I mean, we're still kind of like, okay, because he looked really good 2 years ago. And then last year, it kind of seemed like he took a step back.
Yeah.
Maybe that was because defenses, are catching up to him. But at the same time, he's not that generational guy that we expected him to be, like Andrew Luck or someone like that. That's probably the last one that I can think of, other than, and then you got to go way back. Peyton Manning, guys like that. So more number one picks at quarterback are, quote unquote, I'm not going to say a bust, but they don't pan out to be what everyone expects them to. They don't live up to the expectations. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and Trevor Lawrence is another example of if you don't have the right situation when you come in, things are difficult, right? So not only did he not have a bunch of weapons, but his coaching staff and front office said that whole thing was a
disaster.
And it's tough. So
you walked in that locker room, it was like
Ryan Poles, I know it's definitely not likely you are watching this, but if someone gets this to him, I would suggest keep Justin Fields, keep putting weapons around him, and you're gonna get a bag for that first pick.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna tell you that.
Absolutely.
You probably already know that, but
yeah, you know. For sure. So.
Anyways,
all right. So that's really all I got. I can't think of any other free agency or off-season moves that come to mind right now. Anything on?
I mean, just some key potential signings, like with the 49ers and Ayuk you mentioned. He's expecting a contract. That's something that needs to get taken care of, I believe. With Lynch stating that they want Ayuk to be around for a long time. As a Niners fan, though, I hear Lynch say that every year about a lot of the key players. It's the same. It doesn't change. It's rinse and repeat every offseason. His words do not change. He's very.
They do a really good job of keeping the guys.
Exactly, and they do. They do a good job of keeping them.
The guys that. That's a good move I want to talk about really quick before we wrap it up here. Eric Armstead.
Oh, yeah.
49ers and Eric Armstead decided to part ways. Reports came out that this came out after he signed with Jacksonville. What was he signed for? 17, 18 million?
Something like that.
Something there a year. The 49ers offered him the same amount of money. I'm not sure how long the contract was, but the reports came out they offered him just as much, possibly a little more, to stay in San Francisco, and he opted to still leave. So that kind of intriguing to me. Like, why would you leave a Super Bowl contending team where you are an anchor and a leader on the defense to go to a different team, a younger team, more inexperienced, and team that doesn't have the same established culture for the same money? So just interesting to me. Maybe there was a relationship breakdown, something like that. I'm not sure. But that did kind of catch me by surprise that we offered him the same amount of money. Well, I say we. The 49ers offered him the same amount of money, and he decided to leave and go to Jacksonville. So I'm not sure. Maybe it has something to do with location. So
possibly.
Maybe, who knows? So I know he played in Oregon, so I don't know if he's from there or if he's from the Florida area. I should have looked that up before we started talking. But
I do know 49ers did revamp their D-line. We're going to miss you.
That's for sure.
They did do a lot of replacement players already. Yeah. They've signed already 4 or 5 defensive linemen, another linebacker, a DB. So pretty satisfied with those moves so far.
Absolutely. I've been satisfied with the 49ers offseason so far. I have not been disappointed, I will say that. So we are looking forward to more NFL news, more NFL offseason. Obviously, the draft is coming up soon, so we'll be getting into that. Next week, we are going to really let Justin run the show because he doesn't know this yet, but I'm letting everyone know right now. We're going to talk about the fantasy impact of all of this NFL offseason.
There's a lot of it.
So he's going to be running the show. I'm going to be asking questions, and he's going to be doing all the talking, basically. So
perfect.
If you are a fantasy head, which you probably are because everybody is in America that watches football, please tune in next week. Catch our podcast because Justin's going to be telling us the fantasy impact of the NFL offseason.
Yep.
And with that being said, that's
guys on that screen that are going to dominate fantasy and some guys on that screen that are going to bust.
That's right. And then one of those guys on that screen is living in a fantasy. It's the old white guy.
This guy right here. He's going to do good. This guy right here. He's going to do okay.
All right.
Just imagine they get to the 1 yard line. Just imagine they get to the 1 yard line with this guy right here. And they push.
And they don't get it.
No.
Because Kelsey's not there.
Oh. Nah.
They'll get it. Those dudes can squat.
But let me tell you, this guy right here is going to lose a lot of touchdowns. It hurts. His fantasy value is going to take a nosedive. So just a little key insight to next week.
All right. Right before we get out of here, I got to ask you this, okay? I'm going to end it on a dad joke. Why was the computer cold?
I don't know why.
Because I left his windows open. Stupid. We're out of here. Peace.
See you guys.